Welcome to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of UFO Undercover. Like Natasha says, I am your host, Joe Montaldo. Hope everyone's having a great evening, great morning, great afternoon, wherever you are on our beautiful blue planet. You know, a lot goes on these days, guys, a lot of stuff to keep up with. Man, you know, I just did the show on MUFON Monday. If you haven't caught the show on MUFON, I was kind of co-hosting with Jerry Pittman, who we also carry on the network. He airs on Mondays, 7 to 9. And anyway, we're doing the show. He invited Cliff Clifford on. And I got to say, you know, Clifford's a nice guy. I don't want to take anything away from that. But I have the only real problem I have with the entire interview, or anything that Clifford said, is he used the words, I don't know, about 8 or 9 times. Now, in all fairness, you know, I do believe you should say I don't know when you don't know. But when you run an organization, no, it's not how it works. You can't say I don't know, because if you don't know, you're not running the organization. Let's be blunt about this. You're the last buck. You know, the buck stops here. You're the big honcho. You either know or you don't. And like I told him on the air, if you think you need to fire somebody or you don't think they're doing their job and you're causing the organization problems, fire them. Don't apologize for it. You don't see corporations apologizing when they let go of people who are not doing their jobs. I understand this is all volunteer work, but you know what? People mess up, and sometimes they need to be let go. I've fired directors before. I've let members go. It's part of what we do. And so really, for me, the only real problem I have with Clifford is how many times he said, I don't know. Other than that, I do, and I told him this on the air, I was happy to see him, you know, can a few people. I was happy to see him stir stuff up and move on and try to change the organization. I really want to see the organization survive. Walt Anders is a personal hero of mine. He's one of the reasons I'm in this field today. So I don't want to see his legacy go the way of the dodo bird, but then I don't want to see it being run the way it is today. Now, Cliff's only been in charge for a year, and he's cleaning up the mess from John Sluisler and James Carrion. And I haven't interviewed James Carrion, by the way. I never got around to doing it. He wasn't at a MUFON long enough. I got to think, I either want to interview him when they first come in or like a year after they've been there to see how things are going. He made it a year. Anyway, we're going to move on this evening. I just wanted to bring that up. The archive is available on the ParanormalRadioNetwork.org site. You can catch it there. It's also available on jerrypittman.com. You can catch it over there. There was a separate interview done earlier in the evening on Inception Radio, which I don't usually plug other radio stations, but it was a good interview. I listened to about half of the interview. It was a pretty good interview, and there were some pretty good questions asked, so you should catch it out. Between the two interviews, it gives you a much better understanding of who Cliff is, or Cliff is, I should say. It really does give you a better understanding. Now, hopefully he can turn things around and change things. You know, losing some of the people he lost recently is going to hurt MUFON. So we'll see where it goes. In 6 months or a year from now, we will invite him back on the network and see where things are going. And I had a private conversation with him after, and we'll see where that goes. That was a very interesting conversation as well. I'll be getting into that on the air tonight. Tonight's guest is Charis Brown Malloy. Most of y'all should be familiar with her from 2 weeks back. I had her come on and introduce her new book, Journal of the Starseed, after 2 hours with Stan Romanek. It was a really good interview. It's still available on the network. Something I want to mention before I bring Charis on. She's going to be the Pennsylvania New State Director. And I thought I would announce it tonight while I had her on, you know, get her out blushing and stuff on the air and things, you know. It's a good thing this isn't TV, guys. But still, she's really bright, really intelligent. I think she's going to be an outstanding addition to the organization. We also have 5 other directors come in, probably will be announced before the end of the month. So it should be really, 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 really interesting to see where all this goes. And, you know, the organization's in the middle of a major transition right now. We've got a lot of new members coming in. We've got a lot of new directors coming in. We officially started advertising both ICAR and the Paranormal Radio Network a few weeks back, and since then we've had an enormous endpoint of applications, people. So it's been a very interesting ride. But Charis, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So you didn't always going to go off on that MUFON rant, did you?
No, I didn't, but I liked it. It's all good.
Before we get started, why don't you tell them where to find your book at, and just kind of direct them to it. Again, just a little teaser about it.
All right. Well, the place where you can find it is www.journalofastarseed.com. Starseed is STARSEED, just the way it sounds. And on that site, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Kindle, or you can just download a PDF for your computer. And you can also read the first 2 chapters, which are essentially the introduction and Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. It kind of says the reason for writing the book and kind of dives right into my initial spiritual awakening, which is what the first half of the book is about, and the second half of the book is about my contactee experiences and how those came about.
Let's go check it out. It's easy to find. Come on, you can't ask it. It's easy to find. Now, first of all, Kairos, what made you decide to even come out? I mean, I know it's hard these days to come out in this field, or even to talk about personal experiences, on the air with people or involved. And we have a mutual friend that we're trying to get to come out right now, which I don't know if she ever will. We're trying.
I think she will. I think she's testing the waters here and there. Yeah, well, it was a funny thing. It was kind of a process. I mean, during my initial spiritual awakening, I thought I had schizophrenia because I was about 20 and I was doing a bunch of research on what this could possibly be, why I was hearing voices and seeing things, and all I could find was adult onset schizophrenia, adult onset multiple personality disorder, and I didn't realize that that's when the major growth spurt of the frontal lobes happens in the brain. And that's where in other cultures all over the world they send people on walkabouts, and that's when the vision quests come and things like that, because that's when you become open a lot of times to psychic abilities that might have lain dormant more in recent years until you're an adult. Well, of course, our culture doesn't talk about that stuff, but they do talk about how people go crazy when they are about that age. So I found that out, and I was really afraid. I didn't tell anybody because the few people I did tell didn't believe me. I mean, I was from a very normal background as far as the paranormal goes, so I didn't know who to talk to or what kind of resource to use. And then I got some direction from a friend I met, and I also noticed that everything that I heard and saw was accurate. One day I was I was pulling up to a stoplight, and there was a white van in the right lane ahead of me, and a voice came into my head and said, slow down because that vane's going to switch lanes really fast and it could hit you. And it happened so fast, and I slowed down, and sure enough, that vane switched lanes, no indication at all. The turn signal was not on, anything like that. So things like that kept happening, and then it was a little bit unrealistic for me to say, well, these are just delusions. These are just hallucinations. So that went on for almost 10 years before anything happened with me and extraterrestrials or contact experiences that I assigned as such in my mind. Because now after the fact, I look back at when I was training in Celtic shamanism and going to different dimensions and seeing things and talking to my spirit guides, quote, which now I recognize were ETs the entire time. But I didn't know then because I had no container for it, and I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah, well, because, it's when you said that, I'm thinking about it. I'm listening to you talking, and I'm thinking about how many people have said this. Now, in all fairness, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this show, Charis is going through the awakening at a fairly young age for most contactees, which is intriguing. Right now I'm working with about 24 contactees in this range that are actually coming in at awakening. The core group that I work with the most is a much older group. Well, not a much older group. They start about 7 or 8 years older and run to a much older group, I should say. But it's interesting to see the younger people opening up and the awakening happening to younger people. Now, in a way, this makes me a little bit nervous because it suggests that their timeline may have moved up slightly. But then again, it could just be that the younger generations are accepting things at a younger age. They're very bright, very brilliant, and moving forward is easier for them than some of the old-timers that still to this day want to drag their feet about this particular subject. I don't know. It's something we're working on. We don't have enough of them yet to really come to a firm conclusion, but still, it is interesting to see. Sorry, Kairos, I had to spit that out while I was thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I think technology is a big thing with that, actually. It seems like it to me. I mean, I haven't heard this anywhere, but it just kind of logically seems like if we have things like cell phones and internet and talking within a few seconds to someone across the world, then it's a little bit easier to understand things come into your mind. And they also say so much about the indigo children, the crystal children, and the rainbow children, and all those kids that are born different that I swear, I mean, I did my first book signing a week ago, and there were so many. And you can spot them. Once you get used to it, you can kind of spot other star-seeded people. Something about their eyes, not always the color, but something about the presence that you see in someone's eyes. You can kind of tell. And the fun thing is seeing them before they know. A girl just told me the other day who started reading my book, and I knew from the time that I met her that she was a starseed. I could see it. And she told me that she read the first couple chapters of the book on the website, and it actually brought back memories that she had squashed, that in college she was in the hospital for a week and she was having all these crazy things happen and no one could explain why. They did MRIs, they did CAT scans. She would go into these faints where her eyes would flutter up into her head, and she didn't tell me the rest. I think she's going to in the future, but I think it was all contact and or abduction experiences, and she had totally forgotten about it. But something happens and you can kind of recognize each other, and I'm seeing so many children like that, whose parents aren't necessarily like that, it seems to me. I mean, they might be and just sleeping to it. But, yeah, I've seen a lot. So that might have something to do with it. And it also probably has to do with this whole 2012 business. I think it was all probably supposed to be like this the whole time.
It's really nice to see this many people starting to come out at all age groups. I mean, I think the youngest one we have that I would consider going through the awakening right now is about 23, which still kind of freaks me out. And the oldest is probably about 69. So you can see there's a wide range of people. Yeah. Oh, hey, AJ, I didn't see you in the room. Hey, what's up, sweetie? I'm saying hi to Angela joining. I was being rude saying AJ. Now, I was thinking about this too. You know, when we're talking about psychic abilities, most of the time, for me, I should say all of the time, you know, we do a lot of testing for psychic abilities. It's real easy stuff to test for. And I just can't find any muggles, as Stan Romanek said, that really possess the abilities of any consequence. But anytime I'm interviewing contactees or abductees, their empathic skills seem to be strong, at the very least, very strong. Half of them don't even know they got it. And a lot of their telepathic abilities seem to be strong. And I've even met a few with telekinesis. So who don't know what telekinesis is, ladies and gentlemen, that's the ability to move physical objects with your mind. I found that interesting, too. And one other thing while I'm on this, Linda and I were talking the other day. We were driving back from Pensacola, Florida. And we were talking about how sometimes ET take you out of time for long periods of time. Well, you may be gone a week, you may be on month, you may be gone 2 or 3 years. We don't really know. But I got to thinking about this. The whole time you're gone, you're out of phase with time. But the contactees that they're taking and bringing back and forth are still in phase with time. So they're still abducting people daily that keepers are still working with, even though the keepers are out of phase with time because they actually took them out and put them there. When they bring the contactees back, they go right back into their own timeline. So if a keeper's on board a ship for a year or 2 years, and they're taking people daily, well, this person has access to all the news for those 2 years. So when they set this person back at the time they originally took them, it's like clairvoyance. They know what's happened for those 2 years because they've been talking to the contactees on board the ships that have been coming along those timelines. It's a really weird thing. But it explained a lot to me. Really weird. Sorry, Karen. See, you're making me think about all these things.
No, it's good. I'm learning too.
Well, these are things we're still working on. Yeah. So now, why do you think they picked you? I know, let me just put her on a spot right now.
I have a couple ideas on that. I think that part of it was, I know this is, I still have struggle with saying, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I might as well just get over that. I think that it was genetic manipulation. I think that my genes were modified, and I think that the same is true for my siblings as well. And I think that because I was told that by one of my contacts. So I think that it was not so much as they picked me as they made me, quite literally, actually, at least my physical body. So I know that's often left field, and I do mention it in the book a little bit, but I still don't even understand that much about it. So I don't know what else to say other than that. But the more I roll that around in my mind, the more sure I am about it, because of funny things that happen and things I read about other people who have either like women whose children are like that, or people who claim to be like that, like I do. Funny similarities and things like that.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange how it works, because I agree it's genetics, and I agree that it runs in family lines, because they probably started manipulating your family line a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And it's easier that way because they can follow the progress of each generation for what they want. Meaning, let's see, they know your mother, and they know the qualities that came out in her, and they know what they were looking for that's still not there. So then they move to the next generation. Now, if all the qualities they're not looking for in you, they'll make sure that your kid has whatever you may be missing. Well, if you're missing anything, because we don't know. You can't even say that. But and then for me, this is more important. For me, I don't really list them as indigo children, or star children, or any of the children, because I look at it from a different point of view. These are all children of contactees. So as far as I'm considered, they're all Starseeds, they're all Indigos, because they're all descendants of contactees, which means they're star children. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Mm-hmm. That's where they're coming from. I mean, these aliens have been injected in these family lines for thousands of years. And what's interesting, too, and I've wondered about this, if there's reincarnation, you know that one gray has probably met you 2 or 3 dozen times in the last 10,000 years.
Yeah.
So it gets really weird. But we do know that they track family lines. And each family's, all the kids are going to be gifted. Some kids may be gifted more than others. And some of the children may have a bigger interest in this than others. And then sometimes, how many brothers and sisters you got?
I have one of each.
One of each, okay. So what may happen in your family is they may decide, okay, I looked at all 3. This one has the most of what I'm looking for. So they may have light contact for 2 and heavy contact for the other one. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they have heavy contact for all, and sometimes they mix and match. But they don't always take all the kids all the time. It's weird, because sometimes 1 or 2 will possess what they're really looking for, which kind of gives the siblings a break, for lack of a better way of saying it.
My sister and brother, well, I'm the second in line, and
middle.
Yeah, and I do know that they've had some contact, because they've told, of course, after I've always been the one to be more open about the spiritual type stuff, but that was because it happened more heavily to me, and like I said, I couldn't ignore it after a while. It was like, well, this is becoming one of the most big, important parts of my life out of everything, so I might as well come out about it. And then coming out about the alien stuff was about 10 million times harder, and it's still hard, and people's eyes still glaze over, and so I don't really tell everyone. I mean, everyone I meet on the street, of course not. So I do know, though, that since I have, then my sister and brother have both said, so yeah, there was this weird thing in the sky yesterday, or I had this dream and this happened, or I was meditating and this weird thing happened. And they kind of know, even though they're not really fully focused on it like I am, because they just don't really feel the need to do that. Yeah.
Well, I can understand that, because like my sister, and she's definitely a contactee, and she gets really aggravated at me when I talk with her. She's like, I don't want to know. But, well, she don't want to know. And I can understand. It would really mess with her yuppie upper middle class life that she has. and it would. And I understand. I really do.
Yeah.
But I also noticed that they don't need to pick her up as much, because they do pick me up a lot. But my niece, I hope she isn't listening tonight. If you are, turn off the radio for a minute. I'm pretty sure they're taking her a lot.
Yeah.
And she's got a lot of the signs. She has weird health issues that aren't really detrimental to her health, but just odd stuff you never hear about. She's got a lot of typical contactee stuff. So in our family, it seems to let my sister alone, and really gets to her daughter. Now, my son, who's 26 this year, he has pretty heavy contact, but he doesn't even want to talk about it. He's like, no, that's okay, Dad. Every once in a blue moon, he might come up and tell me something, but most of the time he's like, no. So that's cool, too. I don't believe in forcing anybody into this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but still, something had to fire you up to get you to come forward. I mean, was it a particular event?
It was a few all behind each other because I had been thinking for a long time that I wanted to write a book because I've been writing for a while, and I had a couple. My day job was a holistic health and wellness consultant, and so I'd written a couple of books about dieting or how to do a cleanse and stuff like that, and I was doing consulting and teaching online courses. And so I'd already done writing, and I've been a writer for a while, ever since I was in school, and I told one of my mentors, I think what I want to do is write, and he said, okay, we'll start writing 2 pages a day and send them to me. So by now I've written all these volumes. Some of it's really boring, and some of it's interesting, but either way, that kind of greased the wheels and made it easy for me to write, period. And recently I'd really been feeling this emotion that was welling up inside of me that I needed to write about something. I needed to produce a book. And it's funny because I've heard people say that it's like having a child, that like there's a gestation and then there's a birth when you create something like that. And I never really believed it until it happened to me because it rolled around in my mind for a long time. I should write a book about something. I should write a book about something. And then I went into a couple of areas where there was mixed company. It was right after each other, a couple weeks where I was in really populated places. Usually I live kind of a quiet life. I like my alone time, my quiet time, and it's because I'm an empath, and so if I'm around a crowd of people, I kind of have to recover afterward, just because I get overloaded with other people's emotions, which is a whole other thing that is hard to say because people will look at you funny and say, are you kidding? That sounds crazy. And I'm like, well, I know it sounds crazy, but it's what happens, so what are you going to do? And I was in these areas, and one of them was very muggly, and one of them was very not muggly. So I kind of had the gamut, and I was talking to people and saying, I kind of feel like I want to come out of the closet about my weird stuff. And that's all I would really say. I would never really specify what it was because it's really interesting to see where people draw the line. I mean, you've got a lot of very spiritual, new agey type people who draw the line at aliens and say, no, that never happens, that's crazy. But then they'll go and talk about their angels who talk to them every day, and I'm sitting there looking at them thinking, that's probably an ET, right? But of course I wouldn't say anything. But, and in every one of these conversations, the person would tell me, you have to come out of the closet. You have to write about this. This is really important. You need to do this. And coming from people who I never, ever would have told me that. Even people who in the past, whenever I would start talking about my weird stuff, their eyes would glaze over and they do that thing that they start looking past you and aren't listening to you anymore, so you know it's time to stop talking. And these were the people that were saying, no, you have to write. Someone specifically told me, who's also in the field, he said, there are no young women in the field. Not really. You have to come out of the closet because there's a whole segment of the population that's not being represented here. And I thought about that and I said, wow, you're really right, because I know that there have to be other young women who are having these experiences. And not just the ET contactee stuff, but the spiritual experiences too. I know that that's a fact. Why isn't anyone talking about it? Why is everybody afraid? Well, it's because of what people are going to think about them. Well, I've got enough signs that said, all right, just sit down and write the darn thing. And I wrote it in like 2 months. And it just kind of came out, and then it was done, and I knew it was done. And so I published it. And that was kind of what happened. So I still don't really know. It feels like a channeled work, even though it's all my own memories. But these were things I hadn't thought about in years and years, and all of a sudden they just come up, and it's like, this should go in the book. And so I would write it, and then the next day something else would come up, this should go in the book. And so I would write it, and then in the end, it all kind of just fit together.
I wish I could do that. That drives me that crazy, and that's as politely as I can say it on the air. It does. We work on stuff all the time. It's I don't know. Put me on the air, I'm fine. Put me in front of a book, I'm like, oh my God, shoot me now.
Yeah,
I got to get one on the ICAR.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll get a groupie all together and we'll get something done.
Yeah.
I catch a lot of flack. Because I get flack for not putting out my personal experiences, but I catch more flack for not putting out a book on basic abduction criteria and some of the findings of the organization. Even though if they really wanted to know, they could go listen on the archives. But still, right. I do understand a lot of people would prefer to have a book form to sit there and look and read at and stuff like that. Not me. Give me audio, video stimulation anytime.
Right. Yeah, you definitely
part of the new generation.
I'm definitely finding that too, that everybody doesn't want to sit down and read a book. But I've been a blogger for a little while, and so the book is kind of written, the thing that people often tell me when they start reading it is, it's not like reading a book, it's like, they say, it's like you're sitting here talking to me, Charis. It's like just someone's voice is in my head kind of just describing what happened, and that's exactly how I wanted to write it. That's also why I didn't go through a big publisher, because I didn't want it to be altered. I knew, for whatever reason, that it had to be exactly what happened. Nothing could be amped up and exaggerated. Nothing could be cut out. I mean, everything's not in there, else it would be 1,000 pages long, but they're key experiences that I could not change, even though some of them were pretty hard to write about. Things about relationships, things about personal stuff, but of course all the names are changed, but anyone who knows me and or the people involved would know who it is, and so it was hard. It's not easy, but I knew that it couldn't be changed. It had to be exactly what happened. And so I just wrote it, and that was it.
Well, good for you, because it's nightmares to me. Now, okay, well, I'm going to ask you this question, because I ask this question to everybody. If you could stop the contact, would you?
No way. It's too much fun. It's so interesting. Yeah, I
not everybody describes it that way.
Well, they've been easy on me. I know other people have had abductions and even contacts that are scary and terrifying and painful and traumatizing, and for whatever reason, at least what I'm allowed to remember, because I know that's a big issue too. Sometimes you don't remember everything that happens, and I know that I don't. But they've been extremely gentle. Extremely, okay, we're at this step. Okay, now we're at this step. And I literally get introduced, like, to a new type of ET before I come into contact with them. It's the weirdest thing, but ways that I've come into contact with, like, certain books that then taught me a bunch of stuff that made sense with what I've been experiencing. Way too coincidental to be coincidental. You know, I mean, I'm looking for one book and I can't find it, and the lady tells me to go and lift up a stack of books, and I lift up a stack of books, and there's a picture of an ET's face staring at me from the cover. And then as soon as I pick that book up, I look up, and the book that I was looking for originally is right there, and it wasn't right there a second before. So I'm laughing and saying, okay, I get the message. If I find this, then I can get what I want. And then I read the book, and it teaches me a bunch of stuff. So it is definitely directed, and I definitely feel like I'm in school. It's like, okay, once you pass this test, you can have this information. And the rewards are always in the form of information and deeper synchronicities, like getting to meet more interesting people, or getting to learn something about the way that the universe works, or about Mother Earth, or about the ETs. I mean, I had told you just a week ago or so in a meditation, which is usually when I connect. I also connect in dreams, but at least in my meditations I can kind of go and check in and find out things. It always ends up being accurate. I was told about how some of the science behind how my type of contactee is kind of uploaded onto the ship. And then they'll talk to us using this special technology they have. But I had never heard or saw anything about that. And some of the other specific things that he told me about, for instance, where exactly the ship is located, I'm looking forward to then finding out one day why that is, why it is. And I'm sure I will. I'm sure within the next few months some piece of science will crop up that'll say, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, now I know why you said that. But as of right now, I have no idea. So they're definitely verifiable things, and they've been very nice to me, and that's why I say it's fun. But I know it's all for a purpose, and it's because, I mean, they've told me lots of times I'm supposed to be a part of disclosure, which, I mean, I guess so, because I wrote a darn book about it. But I think that's why they're so nice, is because if I were getting over trauma right now, then I wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm doing. So.
Well, you got to be able to deal with it. Well, you seem to deal with it fine. You seem to be adjusting with it fine. The fact that you're dealing with the fact that you have a contactee is a good thing in itself. Okay, I heard myself. That's going to drive me crazy. Now, what experience I'm trying to find out. What experience to you would be the best one to set someone, to give them an overall feeling of what kind of contact you're having?
Well, the thing that I'll say is, first of all, I've talked to, especially lately, I've been talking to different contactees, and everyone experiences things differently. There are definite threads that go through that are the same, but everybody kind of gets the messages that they can understand. So what I end up being taught a lot about is how to connect emotion and feeling and ascending that way, like opening the heart chakra. I don't really like using that because it can be misconstrued, but it's the best descriptor that I can think of right now. Kind of aligning that feeling part of yourself with the mental part, because that's been out of balance for so long in our culture and on our world. We've been very mental, not very emotional, kind of the feminine side of things. So that's what's taught to me a lot. And I'm given tips every day, you know, do this, don't do this, focus on this, this is how you'll succeed, this is what you need to know. And it's always very logical. So, I mean, honestly, I've been scared a couple times. Just a couple weeks ago, something was happening, and I could feel it in my physical body, like something was happening to my arm on the astral level when I was meditating. And the reason that I can do that is because I've had shamanistic training and going into different dimensions years and years and years ago, which is now coming into handy. It's handy now because I can use that skill to go and do my contact. But usually I don't feel anything in my physical body while I'm sitting there meditating. Everything's going on kind of on this astral level. Well, something was happening on the physical with my body as something is happening on the astral of my body. I felt this feeling going up my arm, and I got scared. And I'm sitting there, and they'll always back off. For me and for some other people I know this isn't always true, but in my case, they'll back off when I'm scared. The fear emotion just makes everything stop. And my contact told me, he said, I'm trying to help you fix something that you can fix on your own, but it'll take you a really long time. So I'm trying to kind of do it for you. Don't be scared. Relax. And so after that happened, I relaxed, and it was kind of a cosmic mental expansion that ended up happening. My contact has gotten a lot more detailed, and I'll probably write about that. I'm writing it all, and I'll probably release a book about that in the future. But as of right now, I'm kind of still learning a lot every day, and I was afraid. But the thing is, conquering fear is such a huge deal with contactees, and even with this dimensional shift that they say is happening. But I would say that for other people who are contactees or who think they might be, and a good way to know is if you feel kind of a longing about the subject, I've found. If you feel kind of a weirdo curiosity, you don't know why, or if you feel like you would like that to happen, well, then it probably already is. Or if you would like to make contact, then you probably already are. I've discovered through people that I've talked to. And it's really just to not be scared, because nothing's going to happen. If someone were here to scare you or to do something bad to you, they would do it. Their technology is so far above ours that we look like cavemen or worse. And your being afraid or not being afraid has nothing to do with whether or not anyone's going to, like, boogeyman's going to come get you. So you might as well not be afraid and really work with that fear, because that's what cuts a lot of contact out. Something will start happening and then you'll get scared and it'll stop. So really just go for discovery, and when in doubt, figure out how to manipulate energy a little bit. There are a ton of books out there. Surround yourself with the white light. You know, because my thing is, and especially even stuff that you've said with abductees, people who've been abducted, it doesn't matter how scared you are. It's going to happen. And they don't care if you're scared. But that's never happened to me. And actually, it's never happened to anyone that I'm very close with who's a contactee. And so I don't know if that means a change is kind of happening, or if that just means I don't know that many people as far as world population goes. So I might just not be connected with those people. But I think
means the keepers are doing their job.
Oh, that's good.
It means really. A long, long time ago, one of the first things that a group of the keepers were working on was to wipe out anything that would be considered negative in the early years. Because experiences left to people going through puberty and into their early 20s leave big scars. I mean, big, deep scars. It's one of the problems we have with the group of contactees in England right now. Mm-hmm. They're all abductees, and they remember a lot of what happened in their 20s. Even though today's contact is much better and they have really good contact, the old contacts were too much. It left it too deep. In this case, now, this doesn't mean this is what happened to you. There does seem to be a group now that is skipping part of the breeding program. I have no idea why. And I don't know if you're part of that either. So it's something we're going to be learning on. Now, I've seen two questions come by. First, everybody wants to know how the book is doing. Is it doing okay? Because I know it's just been out just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's coming all right. Everyone who reads it loves it, so that's always nice. But the thing is getting the word out. So as the word's going out, it's doing well. But it's a small thing, so, yeah.
Jerry said bugging. He'll make sure he gets you on. I talked to him Monday about it. I asked about it, and he knows about you. So you got to kind of remind him that, she ain't gonna say no more than that. Him and Kevin both. You got to kind of remind them. But eventually they'll get around to it. I know, because I know that's the way they do things.
Oh yeah.
Well, Kevin books out pretty far these days. He's usually out a couple of weeks, but it varies. You never know what's going on with them. And Jerry just does it whenever he feels like it. So, and I do it every week. So it's just, Kevin, how he does it every night? It would drive me crazy. I thought about it.
Yeah, it's what
I have been divorced for sure, because Linda ain't going to get guests every night. She'll be shooting me. It's one of them things. When I think about Coast to Coast or any of those shows, I'm always like, wow. Now, getting back to the real stuff, what type of aliens are we talking about here?
A few. My contact every day, the one that I talk, every day that I meditate. So if I skip a day and don't meditate, then I don't talk to him. But he's a gray. And that shocked me, because there's a lot of negative propaganda about grays. And I know that's because sometimes they've done stuff that is not great for the person that it's done to. But mine isn't one of the smaller grays that tend to have to do with abductions and the scary type stuff. And I will grant you, they can be creepy sometimes. I mean, they're just coming into my three-dimensional world now. Things are starting to happen in 3 dimensions that are obviously them, and they're doing it very slowly and gently. And they've told me, so it's so I'll get used to it, and my circuits won't blow, and I won't need a few years of recovery before I can be useful. In fact, what they told me, the quote was maximum efficiency. That's why they're going so slow and gentle with me, is so because I need to do my job, whatever that job is, which I think is basically what we're doing right now, talking about things. But those little ones, whenever they're around, it's creepy. And I've told them, I'm like, guys, why do you have to show up in the middle of the night? Like, why can't you come when it's noon and the sun's out? Why do you always have to give me that creepy feeling? So, but those aren't the ones I deal with most of the time. The everyday one, he's one of the 7-foot grays. His skin is not gray at all. It's tan. He's male, masculine. But there are others that I have communicated with and that I do communicate with that are humanoid. I've even seen some things on the ship that I've visited that I don't even know what they are. I haven't heard descriptions of them. I haven't seen descriptions of them, but I can describe them. When I tend to go, things are, sometimes they're really, really clear, and sometimes they're kind of blurry, kind of like a dream. Sometimes you have really clear dreams, and sometimes you only notice 1 or 2 things, and you couldn't tell if you were inside or outside or what. But I do know that the one that I talk to every day is a gray. However, on the ship, whenever I'm up on the ship with him, he's like the only gray that I see. There aren't any others. So I don't know if the other ones are just in a different part of the ship, or if he's a minority as far as the type of ETs that are up there. But there are a lot of humanoids where I go, like, they look human. They could definitely walk around and you wouldn't know. And some other things that look, I've seen one reptilian, which makes me think when people give all the reptilians a bad rap, yes, there are definitely reptilians that are not nice, just like there are definitely people that are not nice, but there are also definitely reptilians who are out for human ascension, I think. I know, because I've seen some of them. So, they're not all bad.
Well, the reppies have a tendency to do things a little differently, and humans are not quite up to it. They just have a different way of viewing the universe than we do, and their structure and their hierarchy structure is different than ours. They have matriarchs, and they expect people to behave a certain way around them. So when they don't, they feel like they can do what they want to those, and also for them, the reppies only abduct in family lines. So technically, you're related to them.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like they're kind of like that's why they treat you like kids sometimes, or in that same aspect, because to them you're just one of the children. It also is why reppy contactees have so much genetic memory. See, a lot of them thought at first they were traveling or astral traveling, seeing stuff like this. And when they found out what it was, they were actually accessing genetic memory. They were seeing through an ancestor's eyes, probably an older reptilian's eyes. But that's the way they were seeing it. It didn't take that long to figure it out either. Now, the tan grays, the tan, the blue, and the white, because none of them really are gray, but there's those 3 colors we know of for sure, and we know that they come in 7, 5, and 3 heights. We know those are pretty good. the point I wanted to make is when you were talking about how you talk to them, you know, a lot of contactees start out with guides, Indian guides or what have you, dragons. All of them have some kind of guide that they talk to. And a lot of them even have their own language that they write in.
Mm-hmm. What
happens is eventually, you know, they're talking to these guides every day. Eventually, it turns into the Gray.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the Gray, it's the Gray's way of introducing themselves to them so that the person will, you know, do what they want them to do first and foremost, but not have that sense of fear or anything along those lines. And eventually, they identify themselves. It just really goes down to when they think the person can handle it. That we actually stumble across by accident. Back in the old witchcraft days, which was just one of the things that happened. It's kind of like, do they call you by your name thing? We stumbled across that by accident.
Huh.
You know, so far, I've asked 362, I'm keeping count, contactees, do they call you by your name? And they all say no. Matter of fact, they all kind of get weirded out when I ask the question.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never thought about it, but no. No, they don't call me. I mean, he's always talking directly to me, so he doesn't call me anything.
It's something about the way they communicate. It's like they identify us that way. They don't need a name, I guess. I guess they know us through the empathic feeling from each other. Because I know my Gray and some of the other things I deal with by the empathic feeling. I know who they are. I don't know their name. I couldn't say that's John the Gray. But if there was 10 Grays standing there, I could tell you that's the one that picked me up.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes
I think we all have a signature. And I think that's how they find us. Like if we were to travel, you know, across the country or whatever, we don't carry a GPS. It's like we all have like a psychic fingerprint that you can just tune into at any time. That's why, I mean, sometimes I can call up my Gray and I know that he's not right above me. Or I mean, just today I drove 3 states, and, you know, tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm sure I'll meditate and I'll talk to him. And yesterday I was 3 states away, so. But it's because that type of I do think it's like a type of spiritual technology is the best way to say it, doesn't use the same kind of stuff that we use now. We're still really primitive in what we know on Earth, so.
Well, you're being polite there. Really primitive. Stony.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't understand why people don't understand. You know, it's like, I've said this for years. Oh, there's water on Mars. Oh, no, there's no water on Mars. No, there's no water on Mars. There's no atmosphere. There's no water. I said, well, there's life, too. Oh, no, there's no life on Mars. Now we know there's life and water on Mars.
Yep.
It's like when I was 20, I realized my dog had emotions. Of course, science said no. Well, of course, now science says yes. Dogs do have emotions. So some things are just obvious. And I don't understand why it's so hard for the everyday population to accept it. I'm like, come on, guys.
I think it's propaganda. It's straight up brainwashing. I mean,
it is straight up brainwashing.
Yeah. I mean, take, for instance, I've always been a tree talker, right? Like, I talk to trees. Ever since I was a little kid, I never really knew what I was doing. Yeah, definitely a tree hugger. More like a tree snuggler, you know, you climb up, you just kind of hang out in the branches. But only now am I, and in fact, it's in the book. One time I had a whole, like, relationship. Like, I would go every weekend and read under this one particular tree in a park in Richmond, where I was living at the time, and we were friends. And when I left, I said goodbye, and now whenever I'm in town, I'll go and see that tree even now. And now I'm finally reading a book written in the 70s about all of these experiments that were done that showed that plants had emotions, could communicate, could sense what their friends or their owners or their waterers or whatever were feeling thousands of miles away. I mean, they did a study that a plant was hooked up to they used some type of polygraph test machine on this plant, and the woman who the plant was connected to was on an airplane, and every time the airplane would feel turbulence and she would get nervous, the plant would respond. And it was definitely systematic, and there was no way that was a coincidence. So we know this, and we've known this since the 70s, so why is it so hard for people to believe that I talk to trees? You know, when this research has been out, it's been published, it's been shown on television all around the world, but propaganda.
Yeah, well, I've heard many things about how trees expand voices and emotions, and I know that you can positively, if you spend time with them, they grow better, and it's a positive force on them. And I used to garden myself a lot. You don't spend a lot of time with them, and they don't seem to produce as much. You spend a lot of time to them. Of course, I'm always hacking them down, so You're around me too much. So down here, I live in New Orleans. We have 400-year-old oak trees.
Yeah.
Like dueling oaks in City Park. This is where they used to go duel back in the 1800s. These are beautiful oak trees. They're 300 plus years each. Their canopies drop all the way down, touch the ground, sweep out, and there's just 2 holes cut in each side where they used to walk in and get ready for the duels, and then they would walk out and duel between the trees, and it's actually a great spot for paranormal stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
And I've seen some weird stuff driving through there. But anyway, those trees, you can tell they've seen a lot. They've been there a long, long, long time. And so New Orleans kind of have a different view on trees. You know, they're everywhere here. They're part of us, you know, in our culture and our lifestyle. So we just incorporate them. Mm-hmm. So I've been in a lot of cities, and a lot of cities don't have the tree coverage we do.
Yeah.
Trees everywhere. Not just
in the park,
we got them everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the trees in New Orleans are really interesting. I was just down there, and I was kind of feeling around with, you know, my spidey sense or whatever, and talking to the trees, and they are very much awake. Like, I don't know, it's easier for me to say the trees are awake or they're not, because I think that they can all communicate. They all just don't choose to. And sometimes they don't like to. I was in a oak tree grove in California, and I started to walk into the grove, and I got this feeling that I should not go in there. And it was a scary, uncomfortable feeling, and it was coming from the trees, and I didn't understand. I left. I didn't go in. And these were hundreds of years old oak trees, which people have always known oak groves to be sacred. And when I left, I ended up talking to someone who lived in the town, and she told me that a lot of times kids at night, teenagers, go in there and do stuff, like they will light fires in a trunk of a tree or something like that, and no wonder they don't like people. I ended up going back the next day and doing some energy work there, and it was great, and it was fantastic, actually, but overall, I think a lot of the reason that people don't know what the New Orleans folk know about trees is because there aren't so many that are that old, because we've chopped down so many of them.
Yeah, that's true, we have. I got a chance to check out the Redwood Forest when I was in boot camp in California, and it was stunning, to say the least. Mm-hmm. I got to say, too, you have a sense of being safe there. It's just, I don't know what it is in Sasquatch. You're supposed to be roaming around there, and you still feel safe in it. It's just there's not much underbrush. It's just a really nice place to go. And the day I was there was this really weird mist all through the forest, which, of course, I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. I was like, I was having a blast. But people should go visit. Get out in the woods more often. We get out a lot. I mean, but we go out in the swamp. You know, we go out to the beach. We're always out somewhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, we just drove down to Pensacola last weekend just for the drive. Matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, got footage of a UFO, pretty clear footage too, and accidentally got a picture of a black triangle while trying to take a picture of the UFO. I know, guys. Well, I'm going to post the triangle tonight when I get off the air. I'm going to put it up on a Facebook page so everybody can take a look at it. I thought it was a bird, and then today while I was at home, I blew it up a little bit, and sure enough, it's a triangle. I'm like, look at this. I don't know if it's following a UFO or we just happened to get lucky. And we are talking, we were on Santa Rosa Island between Gulf Breeze and Navarre Beach, which is right next to Eglin Air Force Base. And apparently it was just particularly busy that day, but that one road, there's pictures of that on my Facebook page too. You'll notice there's pictures of the beaches. And there'll be little pins that say alien abduction, mill lab, things like that. just to give you an idea how much goes on that beach. While I'm saying it, remember, myself, Linda, Leah Haley, Katrina Williams, Jim Sparks, and about 4 other very famous contactees have all had military abductions right there in that same location, all of us, within 2 or 3 years of each other. It's a really, really weird place. And I'll tell you, if you go down there, you'll probably have an experience. You'll probably see something for sure. If you're a contactee, you might want to stay out of there. You might get mill lab. Well, you might get mill lab.
It's good to know.
Now, if you're coming out of the closet and you're talking about what you know and seeing humans on the ship, but they're probably humans like us, they don't want that kind of information. You know, they might be thinking you might know more than you're talking about, putting you for a ride or something.
Ooh, yeah, I'll make sure I stay
away.
People
be careful. Linda's just a fire. She'll go down there and flip them off and stuff. Come on, now. You're going to get us arrested. Last time I told her, don't go on a military base. 2 minutes later, she's on a military base.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I have no doubt.
Luckily,
if she ever gets hold of the ET, it's going to be hell with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I've stayed pretty far out of that. I mean, nothing's happened. I've never had any, like, cross my fingers, knock on wood. I've never had any kind of thing like that, and there wouldn't be a reason to, because the stuff they tell me has nothing to do with that. We always talk about, like, the ascension process for humanity and what needs to happen and what is happening and what's happening on Mother Earth and kind of the vibrational shifts that are going on. So that's nice for me. I'm not really much into politics, so I'm glad, because that probably means I'm safer.
It probably does, actually. It's a strange thing who gets MILF and who don't. But honest with everybody, when you come out, you've doubled the chances of getting MILF right off the bat. Because if they think you know something, they may take you to see if you do actually know something, or if they can get it out of you. Because a lot of times it's a waste of time for them. They try to retrieve information, and it's about to be a waste. Because ET's pretty good about putting blocks in there to keep Uncle Sam from getting into your head. But you still, if you don't have to go through the experience you don't want to, that's why I say stay away from golf courses. Unless you just want to go down and explore like we do, then go. And I know it's possible you might get MILF. Just want to warn everybody.
That's a pretty good selling point not to go, I would think.
Well, you see where we were at Kairos, I've actually seen stuff right there where the fountain is. We've seen stuff right straight up, like the little black hockey puck things. They see them all the time down there. I don't know what they are. They look like little black hockey pucks flying around. I have no idea what they are. It's kind of weird. How did you like Kairos? So how'd you like Pat O'Brien?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was really neat. I loved the energy in New Orleans. It was cool. That was my first time there, so it was a eye-awakening. And the funny thing was, I knew that I should not go poking around psychically. I stayed to myself. And the last morning I was there, I was up at about 4 to get ready for my flight. And the music, of course, was still thumping outside because we were staying right outside the French Quarter. Well, kind of on the edge of the French Quarter, me and my sister. We were in town. And the music was still going, which I thought was funny because I'd had a whole night's sleep, and I wake up and they're still partying outside. But there was definitely a presence in the condo where we were. And I didn't really feel like it was an ET. I felt like it was a ghost. And I didn't want to deal with it. I just said, you know what? It's too early for this. You go your way. I'm going to stay here and be very mundane right now, and I'm not going to open up my psychic doors, because I felt like there was stuff in New Orleans that I did not want to get into, that I did not want to know about, and that would completely blow my mind. And my mind is blown often enough that I don't know. I think I would need more time there if I wanted to open up any of those doors. But it was a really interesting place. And I would say if anyone thinks they're not psychic and they want to know, go there and feel around and see, because that would be something that would open you up, I'm sure. Just the pure energy. Something about that place is just so awake and lively in that way. It's really amazing. I've never been to another place like it.
Well, see, we accept it as fact down here. So for us, it's a little different. We know that there's weird stuff that goes on down here. We know there's scary, hairy stuff you should leave alone. There's been times that I've been walking through there, just drunk out of my mind, by the way, dancing in the streets, being an idiot. And then all of a sudden, you'll see something out of the corner of your eye, and the whole group of us say, "Whoop, time to go home." We're gone. We don't even want to take the chance that it might be like, Lestat or somebody who needs a
It crossed my mind. It did, because I used to love those books, and I was there, and I always thought it was a bunch of BS. But when I was in New Orleans, I felt kind of weirdo energy. I was like, you know what? I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
It's freaky. It's freaky. And, like I said, when I was telling you, sister, one of these days I'll get y'all down here. We'll get a big group together. We'll get out there about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we'll just explore that whole upper side of the quarter where all the crazy stuff. Not all bad stuff. It's some of it is, but a lot of it's kind of interesting. You learn all kind of stuff down there too. And from what a lot of psychics tell me, is the ghosts tend to be kind of friendly. That they'll interact with you in some shape, form, or fashion. But then there are areas that scary. You're hanging out at Marie Laveau's grave.
Yikes.
We might leave that one alone, too. But anyway, Cass, we got to take a break right quick, because there's a good cutoff point, since I'm blabbering. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be back in about 8 or 9 minutes. I want y'all to please hang out. I'm sitting here speaking with Charis Brown Malloy. Go check out the book, Journal of the Starseed. It's linked right off of our site. Click, go take a look at it, and stay tuned.
I have just closed my eyes again, climbed aboard the dream with the chain. Driver, take away my worries of today and leave tomorrow behind. Oh, dream weaver, I believe get me through the night. Ooh, dreamweaver, I believe we can reach the morning light. Flying high through the starry skies, or maybe to an astral plane. Cross the highways of fantasy. Help me to forget today's pain. Ooh, dreamweaver, I believe you can get me through the night. Ooh, dreamweaver, I believe we can reach the morning.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to UFO Undercover. I am your host, Joe Montaldo. Sorry about that, guys. I was talking with Kairos. Forgot we were on the air. Never a good thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we were actually talking about quite a lot of things in the book, which I'm going to come back and recap some of this with y'all. You know, we were discussing what goes on aboard the ships, what questions you can ask. Well, you know what, we might come back to that, because there's something else I want to know while I'm thinking about this. The first gray, you can rename the Kairos. Which, 3 foot, 7 foot, 5 foot?
The first one?
First one you can remember.
Well, okay. I'm not sure because I drew pictures of them when I was a kid. And they, well, you know what? They were tall. They were tall, so it must have been 7 feet. Because I would draw pictures and my parents would get freaked out because I wasn't allowed to watch. I grew up in a pretty strict religious household, and I wasn't allowed to watch anything with magic or aliens, or we didn't even celebrate Christmas. It was very, you know, low on the mystical side of life.
Let me ask you this, before you go any further. Mom or Dad? Which one imposed that?
Whether to get freaked out?
No, the one that wouldn't let you, like, watch, you know.
Neither. It was the religion. It was both. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, because they.
I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it is one of those things. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and so. I
thought your mom was a contactee when the first time I seen a picture of her.
Yeah, well, I asked her as I started realizing all this. I asked her about when she was pregnant. Did anything strange happen? And she said that she had very vividly colored dreams. And I know that that's something that often women who are pregnant and are contactees will say. So, but she couldn't remember anything else. But I think my dad is too, just from things they said, you know, even though they wouldn't say that they are. I know even if they're listening to this, they're probably like, what is she talking about? But anyway, it's my opinion. So, and I would draw pictures of these people, and I would call them people, but they would have very huge eyes, tiny nose, tiny mouth, really tall, skinny, long arms, long legs. I didn't know what I was drawing. I remember just thinking, this is what people should look like. This is the epitome of beauty. And I remember erasing the eyes and making them a little bit bigger, and erasing the mouth and making it a little bit smaller. And it just got to the point where they always looked the same, and they looked like grays. And I remember one day, and this is in Journal of the Starseed, I remember one day sitting at the kitchen table and showing and drawing all these pictures and showing my mom, who was bustling around the kitchen doing, you know, whatever mothers do when you're little, you're not really paying attention, and say, Mom, look at my pictures. And she came over and she slid my pictures across the table and kind of looked at them and said, Charis, do you see anyone that looks like this? But I could feel that she was freaked out. She didn't flip out outwardly, but being an empath, I knew what not to say. Not because she was going to get angry, but because I didn't want my mom to be freaked out, you know. I didn't want her to be afraid or anything. So I just said, oh, no. And no matter how hard I try, I don't remember what the truth was there. I just remember what I said. So obviously I was seeing these things somewhere, but I know that they were tall. I wasn't drawing little people. I was drawing tall people. So it must have been the same one, I would guess, or one's like the same one that I'm talking to now.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it was. Well, that's the reason I was asking, because the more advanced the contactee it is, the more likely that both parents were abductees or contactees, and probably both sets of grandparents. Mm-hmm. For the listening audience, it's easier for them to get like a great contactee with a reptilian contactee, let them have a child, take that child, marry it to whatever they think the next step is with the next contactee or the next type of alien, and move it forward. And it makes it easier on them. And there's a lot more abductees in the world than any of us want to admit to. So it's a lot easier for them to do this. And it really puts us in perspective. We're gonna do what we call a short sale here. Okay, let's say E.T. started abducting people 10,000 years ago. Y'all can do the math for yourself on this. 10,000 years ago, and let's say they just started off with 1,000 people. That's it. 10,000 years ago, 1,000 people. Do you know how many descendants they would have today? On the low side, do you know how many descendants, how many people would be related to them today? 1.2 billion. And that's just doing the math. 1.2 billion people would be originally related to that 1,000 people 10,000 years ago. If you go back further and say E.T. took us 100,000 years ago, then that number, of course, almost includes everybody, which means that there's levels of what's going on. So anyway, we're going to stay at the 10,000 mark, and it's just easier for people to understand. You know, and we also think that there was a much larger group of contactees 10,000 years ago than 1,000. And recent evidence suggests that they were much more open with our ancestors than they are with us. There's a lot more writings about this. There's a lot, you know, these stories always fascinate me when I'm reading through some recently translated Egyptian stuff. It's back about 4,800 years. They're talking about daily things flying around the skies. These visitors, I forgot what the exact word they call them. Basically, it translates to like a demigod. They would fly from one pyramid to the next, or they would fly out to somewhere and come back. But they were flying, and it's mentioned a lot. The Sumerians mention it a lot. And then all throughout ancient culture, you cannot find a culture anywhere that didn't see someone flying in the sky. Now, come on. White brothers just started flying 100 years ago. And, okay, we'll say hot air balloons. So 200 years we've been flying, 250 years. So what was flying? I mean, these kind of things, you got to just look at everybody in the world and go, do you not know how to read? Did you not read the history?
Yeah, sometimes it's not myth, guys. It's just technology. In fact, most of the time, it's just technology. Yeah. I was just reading the Sumerian stuff not too long ago. I remember I was reading the Epic of Gilgamesh for the first time.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, and afterward, you know, as he's landed on the mountain, which is the same thing as the Noah story, after he's landed on the mountain and all of the gods kind of notice his sacrifice and they come around and they sit there. And then I believe it was either Inanna or Ishtar, I forget which one she's named in that. She's crying because she's upset that they killed all the humans and Gilgamesh is the only one left in his family. And my thought is, okay, well, what were they flying in, y'all? I mean, these weren't just myths. They were talking about something that they saw, that happened. And people just like to block it out, but it's like, wait a second, this is very similar to technology we have now. Or about the Tuatha in Ireland, and one of the one of the kings or nobility somehow in the wars of the Tuatha fighting against each other lost his hand, and then his brother or his friend made him a magical silver hand that then went on the end of his arm and acted like a hand. Well, it sounds like a prosthetic to me, you know, and it's just technology.
And see, there's a lot of that in the ancient world. And just, you know, when people ask me all the time where they should start when they come into this field, and it's always the same answer, ancient history. Mm-hmm. Don't try to understand today's ufology without understanding ancient history. And there's certain key cultures. You really need to study the Druids. You really need to study the Sumerian, the Dogon, the Aborigines, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Incans, the Aztecs, and at least 3 Mesoamerica. And on top of that, you really need to look at ancient China and ancient India. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find out that in all of these cultures, there's 2 stories that are very similar. It just runs throughout our history. And the reptilians and greys and humans are talked about throughout it. One thing we did notice, though, it does look like the humans and reptilians showed up before the greys. There's about 3,000 years that we sifted through that there's no sign of the greys. And then there was some kind of catastrophe that dates back around 12,500 years ago, and then the Greys showed up on the scene. So, not sure what that was about. Maybe the Greys just decided to tell the reptilians and humans that, look, we're the boss. This is how it's going to be. Guys, don't forget, Journal of the Starseed. Go to the site, click it, get the book, check it out. Write to Kairos, let us know what you think.
Yeah, let's see that.
I'm different ways tonight. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. And also, they can find me on Facebook, and I'm definitely on there a lot. So if you have any questions, you can shoot me a message. And there's a way to get in touch with me on the website, too. Just go to the author page, and you can shoot me an email through that. So. Well,
I only have 100 slots left on Facebook now. It's $10 a slot, guys. Sorry. No.
Well, good. We're already friends, so
you're already on. You don't have to worry about it. Who's in the room? I got some recruiting going on. I want to recruit 2 MUFON directors, so I'm going to have to put one of you directors in charge of this. She should be interested in it. So, and then there's something else I wanted to ask. Okay, well, we'll move on. There's some scatterbrain tonight, anyway. I want to, now your sisters. How did your sister feel about you talking about this? And let me ask you this: was the woman I met with you down here your real sister?
Yeah.
Or was she?
Yeah, she's
younger, just like Bobsy twins.
People thought we were twins when we were little, and now they don't think we're sisters, and now all of a sudden they do again. It's really weird.
Well, when I look into each one of your eyes, oh no, I have no doubt. That's why I asked, because really right there y'all seem to be really, really close. But outwardly, yeah, there's differences. I mean, they're different, but she seems brilliant just like you. I think y'all are both well off. That's contactees in general.
Well, she's a documented genius. She's built things that are flying. Well, I don't like saying that because she gets mad at me whenever I do. Okay. But no, I mean when she was in school, she used to go to all the NASA programs, and she's been into science and math and about that kind of stuff forever. And she's definitely a genius. But and I'm the only emotional brain in a family of computer brains, so that's what ended up happening on that one. But we're definitely different sides of the same coin. And I was actually told in a meditation once that she was kind of the point of the genetic experiment that is the 3 of us. I mean, my father is 2 years older than his sister, and then 7 years older than his brother. My mother, 2 years older than her sister, 7 years older than her brother. My sister, 2 years older than me, 7 years older than our brother. Lots of other similarities like that about the way.
Brother youngest?
Yes, he's the youngest one.
He's probably the point.
He's probably the what?
We're going to leave that alone.
Oh, I would love to know more about. You'll have to tell me more about that later. Ooh, it's going to blow his mind.
I have no doubt that all 3 of y'all are gifted. I met you and your sister. Y'all are both very gifted. So, but it's not something I don't expect. I got to be honest about this. If I meet a contact in person and they're not really brilliant, I'll be really disappointed. I never met one that's not. I'm sorry.
It's not a bad club to be in.
No, I mean, and everyone we've ever IQ tested, I can tell you right now, the lowest contactee I've IQ tested was 130, which is still above average. The highest is 188.
Wow.
And there's a lot of us in there that are in between. I was tested young. Mensa tested me when I was in private school. I tested out at 169. And overall, a lot of contactees test like 170, 150, but it's not an overall IQ. It's like they're gifted in particular areas. For me, I love math and science. I always have. English, nah, right? And as you can tell, I can't write. My grammar's not the best. Even though I was honor roll student, it's strange. But you'll find this too at contacts. They'll be brilliant, and some of them will be honor roll and go through college, get PhDs and masters, and you name it. And some of them will be brilliant and never make it out of high school because they have a hard time dealing with the contact. They'll get into drugs, alcohol abuse, other types of abuse, and they'll let that dominate their life because it helps to numb the contact. Originally, I thought this was just people having bad contacts. But come to find out, even some of the people with having good contacts don't want to happen because they think they're crazy. So it's easy to dull it out. I got to warn people. Certain drugs will dull it out. Certain drugs will enhance it. Just a fair warning. I'm just giving y'all a fair warning. I've done a lot of things when I was young, and trust me, some of it is worse. Well, I don't want to say it wasn't worse than me, but it enhanced the contact, and we'll leave it at that.
That's a good disclaimer, so be careful.
We give out a lot of information, and I don't want to be the one that got somebody high and abducted somewhere. The person who just asked me that question, can anybody get abducted? I don't think so. I think ETs are after specific people. And by the way, before I get the email, it's not because they're any better than anybody else on the earth.
Yeah.
Well,
definitely
they might be. But anyway, they do it. Well, I don't want to mean personality-wise, but they usually are more empathic, more telepathic. See, like in your case, you might be one of the ones. There's a couple of people I know, they're very, very empathic. And they're really good with dealing with contactees, like contactees that have had like sexual rape or really bad stuff that happened to them. They're really empathic, so they can like calm them. It's like petting your dog, but psychically. It works really well, and contactees take to it really well, and it helps them to deal with the contact. Some people have that gift. Some people can't deal with it themselves because it's freaky weird. But overall, we've had a different style of contact in the last few years. Now, so knowing that your brother, it probably goes back pretty far in your family.
Yeah.
But also, now, what does your brother think about you talking about this? He hasn't tried to choke you or nothing?
No, he knows that he just, this is the thing, at first, and this is pretty much what everyone says about me, in my family at least, and some of my friends. It's kind of at first, they look at you slanted and they say, what, you must be crazy. But then as things happen, either to them or as they see that the things that I talk about are then validated, then you can't really think that I'm nuts anymore. And as far as me talking about it, the funny thing is I was scared to come out of the closet for so many years, terrified. And I had good reason to be. I mean, I got some very negative responses, especially when it came to things like dating. I'm sure you can imagine. And this was before I knew anything about aliens. This was just, the I'm not like other girls kind of talk with. I can manipulate energy. I talk to angels, what I thought were angels, things like this. But then I finally bite the bullet, come out of the closet, brace myself and wince and wait for the brick to come through my window or something. And nothing happens. No one seems to be bothered. They're just all like, okay, well, yeah, sure, I believe that something could be going on. And that definitely did not used to be like that. It definitely, that's a new thing. I mean, I know even a few years ago, the response would not have been so incredibly benign as it is now. Something happened. I don't know if it was a vibrational thing. Maybe it's just the amount of exposure that's being given to ETs in media that's not all scary anymore.
Well, I think a lot of it is there's a few people that took up advocacy of the abductees and started painting them in a light that, no, they're not crazy. Most of these people are quite bright, quite brilliant. A lot of them have outstanding careers in outstanding areas. a lot of contactees are people you would never think. We actually have people on the roll. Why should I say I do? Because I don't even release these to the organization because if any of them ever got out, it would make my life miserable. But there are people that are in really high positions that are contactees.
Yeah.
And they are contacting us, and they are interested in what's going on. And it's one of the reasons that ICAR directed signed non-disclosure agreements is because you never know who's going to contact you. I can tell you now, there's been more than a dozen politicians contact us. 2 very famous. One I've talked about on the air. Of course, I had to wait till he passed away, but he was a 25-year incumbent that called us about black triangles. This guy sits on some of the most secretive committees on the government, and he's calling us about black triangles. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But he was exactly who he said he was. He sent us all documentation to prove it, and then he showed up.
Yeah, well,
those kind of things are fascinating.
Yeah, things are definitely happening. And the thing that I'm noticing is even when people do the whole, well, she must be crazy kind of thing when I'm not there, then when I am in contact with them, they look at me or they hear me and they say, oh, well, she's not crazy. Well, okay, well, if she's not crazy and she's talking about this absolutely insane sounding stuff, then what's going on? And that's when their minds start to stretch. And that's when it's like, well, then maybe there's something to this. Then maybe, and then people start thinking about their own experiences, the times where they saw something out of the corner of their eye or they had a really weird dream or something like that. And it starts them kind of questioning what's reality and what isn't, because the truth is reality is a lot more interesting than we think in the mundane culture that we're trying to be brainwashed into. And also, I know that some people have an issue with ETs being more, I don't know, I guess evolved is the best word, than us, that messes with your ego. But why should it? I mean, if a 5-year-old child is mad that his 30-year-old mother can do math better than him, why? That doesn't necessarily mean she's a smarter individual. She's just been around longer. That's kind of how I see this. It's like, well, they've been around a lot longer than us, so yeah, their technology is going to be better. Yeah, their thought processes might be clearer. We're still a pretty new species. And it's kind of silly as, say, you know, when Columbus sailed, or whoever the first sailing people were across the big oceans, which now we know they weren't actually the first at all, but for the sake of this example, we'll pretend like they are. And it's as silly as the indigenous people saying, oh, well, nothing must exist on the other side of the ocean. We're all that there is. That's what we're doing with our planet. Well, we're the only planet that we know of. Well, we don't know of that many planets. Our technology is still pretty primitive. We're looking at dark spots across stars to see if there's a planet there. That's not that advanced. And we think it's really advanced. But it's not. So for us to think that our technology is the state of the art in the universe and to make our argument based on that is just ridiculous to me.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, today's society is kind of weird. I'm hoping it's going to play catch up and things are going to change. I'm going to be honest. I'm an Aquarius. I expected life to be much different than it is now. It's not the flying car thing or anything like that. I just expected us as a society to be more enlightened than we are as a whole. And I don't want to get on religion because I know it's partially religion's fault, but still.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just a lifestyle. I think that especially in our culture, we're drugged and hypnotized into a stupor. I mean, between caffeine and all the junk that's in our food and all the alcohol and God knows what else, and then you just sit down in front of the TV and veg out all night, of course people aren't going to be thinking for themselves. Of course they're going to be going with the status quo, especially because the economy is the way it is and no one has time to do anything but work. So when are you going to have these deep philosophical thoughts that are going to move a culture forward?
Yeah, that's it. Well, you know, maybe the 2012 thing has some truth to it. My problem with the 2012 thing is I actually went and looked at the calendar. It was dumb on my part. The thing about it is on the Gregorian calendar, this is going to be like 160 years from now. Actually, it could be 160 years in the past, so it could already happen, meaning that this is the golden age, which is really scary. Or it could be 160 years in the future, up to the future. Because they had a 13-month calendar based on the 32-day month, which is a much different style calendar than we have. That's an extra, 60 days or 50 days? So when you start doing the math that way over the last 5,000 years, It adds up to a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that a lot of things are happening, like with the natural world, that seem to be reflecting all those prophecies. But I don't know if that's just coincidence. It doesn't seem like it. I mean, I don't remember. I know that I haven't been around for that long in this incarnation, but still, when I was a kid, I don't remember there being worse hurricanes and tsunamis and tornadoes and weird areas and earthquakes after earthquake after earthquake. It's definitely different than it used to be. So something's happening.
Something is happening. There's definitely going on. No, y'all don't believe that last thing I said. I am not going to move on direct Starseeds. So y'all start writing to me. They would have to pay me, and frankly, MUFON don't make enough money, so we're going to leave them alone. I'm trying to leave them alone. Y'all stop writing to me about them, damn it. I knew when I did that show Monday it was going to be kind of strange. And I was actually quite nice to Cliff, I have respect for the man, I was also taught to respect my elders, regardless if I agree with them or not. So that's just one of those. And he's been around 72 years. He's got to know more than I do. I don't know how to run an organization better. He's got to know something more than I do. I just got to feel for him. I think he walked into a disaster that he didn't expect.
Yeah.
Maybe something else is going on. Now, what do you want to see the ETs? Let me ask you this. Would you like to see the ET itself come forward? I mean, something like one of the ones you talked to, just showing up at Obama's house, or I should say the White House in this case, and taking him by his little hand and walking him out to the podium and say, let's do a joint. What do you think? I
think that, I don't think that there would be the kind of mass hysteria that people assume that there would be. I think that people are a lot more intelligent than that, and I think that people have thought about this in a more open way than the elitists of the world, even people who don't realize that they're elitists, believe. However, I do think it would be dangerous for that ET. I think that there are people who would flip out and who are so indoctrinated in whatever negative propaganda has been put forth either by media or by religion or by all of the above or something else, that they would just flip out and do terrible things. That's one of the reasons I think we don't see more UFOs. I think it's because people would be shooting at them, because it's scary when you have your paradigm shifted like that. And a lot of times people react with fear to something that they don't understand, especially something that they've also kind of been told to fear anyway. So I would love to see it happen, but I would want there to be bulletproof glass everywhere.
I agree. I just don't know how they're going to do this. See, Obama, if he wins, he might get to find out about it. They never tell a first-term president. And probably the only Democratic president that even knew they were here was probably Kennedy. Clinton was still asking when he left. Kennedy was still asking. So it means Obama doesn't know. Carter's still asking, But Reagan did some interesting stuff. Reagan instituted Pine Gap, which is the British United States defense of outer space. Then he instituted Star Wars, which the lasers they were building were way too big to be shooting down missiles.
Right.
And then 6 months after that, he started talking about wouldn't the world come together on an alien invasion. And these are three things that suggest this man knew something.
Definitely. Well, I mean, an alien invasion, that's hard for me to, I don't know. It is and it isn't, because I've heard things on both sides. But something that keeps coming to my mind is, if they wanted to take us over or to kill everyone, they could have done it so many times. And so long ago. Yeah. They had the spears. And they could have just stood there with their little zap guns going, you humans on the planet. Let's just wipe out. So why go to all the trouble now if that's what they were after the whole time? I think that it's actually that more complicated. Well, it's much more complicated. And there's way more agendas than most people realize. Yeah. My point being is we know they've been here 10,000 plus years. They've never wiped us out. But they really haven't enlightened the species either, because 10,000 years ago, they could have united the planet. We could be a united species now and be much further evolved in every aspect
than we are now. They never stopped religion 1,000 years ago when it shut down technology for 500 years. Most humans don't know we should be 500 years more advanced than we are.
Right.
And that's all thanks to religion. So they pick and choose where they're going to interfere. And my point is I really think they're only concerned about their contactees. I think that's the reason they've never publicly gone public, is because the other 5 billion people on the planet, and I hate to say it this way, don't mean anything to them. It's not that they don't like them. It's not that they like them. It's just, for them, it's not part of what they're doing. It's not part of what they've been trying to achieve. And they really do look at them as less than, I guess, like monkeys. They really don't consider the overall race to be enlightened in any sense, which of course they're right. But the contactees are a much different thing. So I think that's one of the reasons that they've been keeping it a secret. Because in the old days, like I said, the Sumerians talk about this, the Egyptians talk about it, the Dogon talk about it, and the Aborigines. They moved amongst them openly. And they don't do that anymore. So somewhere along the line they realized that we only really need this group of people. That's why I don't think they've ever stopped any wars. Because I really think what would happen, like if tomorrow the United States and China got into it, I think they would take their contactees and say, okay, have at it.
What about the stories of the UFOs over the missile launches and then the missiles couldn't launch?
That's true. They've actually happened a few times.
Yeah, so that I think they're not into, but I think the part of that is concern for the Earth.
Well, think about it. They didn't stop us from nuking Japan. And they just didn't stop Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island or the radiation problem in Japan. And they have the ability to do this. So
yeah, I don't know. I think that it's I think that even goes some into the mystical, because then when you're dealing with like the possibility of a bunch of people dying and whether or not others interfere, then to me that leads to the question of, okay, well, what is a soul? Do we live once? Do we live a lot of times? What is it that life is for? You know, and that means that if a lot of people are wiped out at one time, did they agree to die before they came into being at all? Like before they were born, did they say, okay, we're going to check out here in this huge cataclysmic event? I don't know. I've heard that, but I'm not exactly sure, because I do also think for all the people who are freaked out about 2012, I feel very strongly that there is a chance. I don't know what is more probable right now because it goes back and forth, but there's a chance that it'll be so mundane, and usually when prophecies are fulfilled and stuff, it's kind of anticlimactic, I've found and experienced. So I think with all the muggles, or, you know, the normals, or whatever you want to call them, walking around, what I have seen myself and what I think could be the possibility is when you're talking about something like humans' ascension into another dimension and things like that, you've got critical mass, which could be one more person at any time. No one knows what critical mass is. And then after you've reached critical mass on a subject, all of the people who aren't conscious of this will say, oh, yeah, no, we thought that the whole time. Oh, yeah, no, that's normal. And only the ones who remember would even be able to say, you definitely did not used to think that. What are you talking about? Kind of like I'm saying about everyone being okay with people coming out of the closet now. Even just 20, 30 years ago, people have gotten strung up for that kind of stuff, and now people are going, oh, well, can you give me a palm reading? Oh, well, what do you feel about my cat? I don't know, but people are just way more open. The same people sometimes, and they don't realize it. They say, oh, no, I was always okay with this, when they definitely weren't. So something like that could happen. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be interesting, though, because things seem to get more and more interesting about these subjects every year.
Yeah, it's getting better. It's getting way better. The Africa community is growing. It's probably 500 million, maybe more in the world now. So it's growing. We still don't have the pull we need to affect any real change yet. Well, that's not true. We can affect change, just not at the rate.
And not at the top down
happen all the time.
Yeah, it's got to be bottom up. It's got to be people making decisions for themselves, not a policy that's put into place, you know.
Well, one of the things I've been preaching for years, and this is an easy thing for most people, you know, it's like when you get up in the morning, you go to work, or you're on your way to work, you stop at the convenience store, you get your cappuccino or your espresso, and you're in a bad mood. So you take it out on the girl or the guy who's working. Well, what you just caused was a ripple effect. Everybody who comes in after you this chick or this guy is going to be rude to them, which of course in turn is going to put them in a bad mood. They're going to go to work and put. Now you probably yourself, you're one little person, probably just responsible for putting 1,000 or more people in a bad mood. So it's the same way in a good mood. If you're nice to somebody, they're nice to the next person. Well, it's also the same thing with an idea. If it's a good idea, the next person will pick it up. They'll send it to the next person, to the next person, the next person. And as we've all seen with the Internet now, things go viral quickly. It's at least now, with the Internet and a few other gadgets, at least you can get stuff out a lot faster. And if people catch it at the right time, it'll go everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And the nice thing there is, even when you're talking about things that divide people, like religion, for instance, is a great example of this. And it's, if you get down to it, if you get down to not what the mythology of the religion is and not what all the BS that you can usually research and see when certain things were put in for social and political control and a lot of times monetary control as well. But when you get down to the actual tenets of the religion, they all end up being the same. All of them. They all tell you to do the same stuff. Essentially, it's be nice, realize that there's more than the physical world, and work toward a greater unity, regardless of what you think God looks like, or doesn't look like, But now that we're able to share these ideas openly on something like the Internet, that you can post something and someone across the world can read it within 30 seconds, then this type of change has the opportunity to come about more quickly. On the other hand, negative stuff can go around too, and you can freak a lot of people out really fast by talking about some new tragedy. My thing is, there need to be more positive news shows. If every news station showed as much awesome news as terrible news, those of them that don't really matter to you. I mean, people get up in the morning and watch news and see about all the horrible stuff going on in the world that does not actually impact them at all, but it puts them in a bad mood. Yeah. Versus, why is every news station not also showing a bunch of cool stuff that happened? Because it certainly does. Well, it's because that's not the agenda. So I don't know why, but
and you know what? I would be just as happy good news as bad news. Well, personally, I'd rather see the good news. Not that I don't want to know what's going on the planet. I really do. I do like I always do. I pick and choose my news. I got Yahoo and MSN and a few other sources set up. I'm not into any of the mainstream media. They just aggravate me these days. So that way I can go through it and see what's going on for myself. I like to look at BBC America because they look at the news a little bit different than most American news media. Besides, CNN is liberal, Fox is conservative. Well, I'm in the middle. I need a middle. Just like in politics, I need a middle. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I can't go with the crazy Democrats wanting to raise $3 trillion in taxes. I can't go with the crazy Republicans not wanting to do anything. I don't know. Yeah. I need something else.
I think people just need to think for themselves. Like you're saying, I mean, you came up with that. It's not that someone screamed at it to you often enough that finally you adopted it as your own opinion. And that's what seems to be happening more and more and more now. And that's one of the things that's keeping people from waking up. So it all comes down to a choice, and people will eventually realize that they have one at all. And that's the question, because a lot of people don't think that they do. They think they're stuck in what they're doing when they're really not at all. They just have to perceive that they have a choice to assess. And then they have a choice if it really matters that much and what does matter that much and how to follow it.
Well, it does. It should be a painting. Did I see somebody having a problem with audio? I'm looking on our end, guys. It looks pretty good. Must be PowerPoint glitching. One of those strange little glitches. Hey, Lily, I just seen your question. I must have still had your instant message open from Lily's our New York State Director, by the way. She wants this question for Charis. It says, Dr. John Boylan believes that starseeds are the only true contactees, and Dr. Stephen Greer believes that all aliens are good. Do you agree with them, or do you think there are other possibilities as well?
I think there are absolutely other possibilities. I mean, all starseeds are contactees. Wait, was that all starseeds are contactees, or all contactees are starseeds? Which one?
Let me go back and I'll look. Let's see. It's Dr. John Boylan believes that starseeds are the only true contact.
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea because I don't know how many starseeds there are. I don't know what exactly would necessarily qualify someone as a starseed, really. I mean, if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, I don't know enough about it. And what's that?
No, go ahead, finish.
Oh, yeah, and about all aliens are good, I'm sorry, but from what I've heard, and this is not my direct experience, thank goodness, so far, knock on wood, has all been positive, but I definitely am of the opinion, just from other information I've been exposed to, that all extraterrestrials are not out for human ascension, necessarily. So I don't necessarily think that, oh yeah, this is great, open yourself up to anything. I think that's dangerous and not safe at all. You shouldn't do it.
Dr. Boylan, if you're listening, you're a Fruit Loop. That's as politely as I can say it. Greer, stop asking for money. And you're not a guru. Get over the guru, dude. All right, yeah, I did. $2,500 so I could be your guru. Give me a break. Good thing you got arrested. I'd have had to get you arrested. Lord have mercy. The sad part is, originally, way back in the day, in 2001, North Korea, when he was doing the Disclosure Project.
Yeah.
But then, all of a sudden, he goes crazy. I need money for this. Well, it's like the 0 point. He's asking money, 0 point. Well, where'd all that money go? What did he do with it? We don't have no 0 point, so it didn't go there. And then he starts charging $2,500 to have a spiritual ET meeting on his rent.
Oh.
Okay. And then he started doing the ambassador training out in some national park for $2,500 a person. When he got arrested, he had 40 people with him.
Wow.
There's 40 dumb people on the planet, huh? Come on, guys. $2,500 to be an ambassador, what? What are you an ambassador to? What? Come on. Wake up, people. If you want to waste that kind of money, ICAR can use it. And trust me, we'll put it to much better use. We'll go hire these 3 doctors, finish a blood type study. There you go. Cost me about $15,000. Y'all will have all kind of data. Lord. Hell, for that matter, I'd rather see you give it to MUFON. Give it to one of them two. Anyway, I shouldn't have got into that. Well, see, for me it's simple. Starseeds contact these children. It's that simple. There's thousands of contactees, there's thousands of starseeds. You see, because like Indigos they want to say are like hybrid star children. Well, they're the same thing. They're star children. Starseeds are star children. The same thing. They're the children of contactees. Some of them are more gifted than others. Some of them aren't. But they're still the same thing. So we made 5 different names for one group.
Yeah.
Because like they'll say, well, they have these gifts. Yeah, well, all contactees have those gifts. Some use it better, some of it don't. So I'm like, they're all starseeds, they're all indigos. Get over it, people.
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, those words are thrown around a lot, but really, I mean, if I would love someone to just tell me what is the difference between an indigo and a crystal child. Because really, or a crystal child and a rainbow child. I mean, there are these different lines, and also what years were they born? Because they say, well, that's it, but then there were indigos born, 60 years ago, because they were the forerunners of the indigos. So it's nice to have a name, I think, but if we could just call them all starseeds, that would be fantastic, because that's what they are, and does it really matter if you draw those distinctions that are so fluid anyway?
I'm kind of tough on those things, It's just I've been in the field for too long, 30 years, and I'm kind of like, I can see him. This person will introduce him to me. I'm speaking at a conference, right? We'll use the last one I spoke at in D.C. Lady walks up to me. I'm an indigo. Another lady walks up to me, indigo. Tells me all about themselves, everything that's going on. These are typical contactees. Another lady that walks up later on, I'm a star child. Another one walks up, tells me she's something else. Anyway, by the end of the day, I've had like 25, I've talked about 25 or 30 people, and about 15 different descriptions, from starseeds to star children to everything in between. But they were all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just some stand out further. Like the keepers, they're going to stand out more. The communicators, they're going to stand out more. They're going to be more noticeable. They're going to affect change. That's what indigo is supposed to be. They're supposed to be the ones that affect change. There's supposed to be a few of them, and they affect change. There's a lot more of them because they're star children. Oh, wait, we got a quick call coming in. Let's grab this. Let's go. Caller? Hello, caller.
Hello. I wanted to make a comment.
Hey.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you know you're fine.
Oh, it sounds like a bad connection.
No, me and Charlie see time.
Oh, hi, Charis.
Hi.
It's Debbie.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment. So many people complain about back problems, and there's a lot of people who actually don't have back problems at all and have never had one, and they cannot understand what it's like to have a back problem. Well, I kind of view it the same way. If somebody sees an unidentified flying object or whatever, that doesn't mean they didn't see it just because somebody else didn't. And I thought, what a perfect way to think about it. People who don't understand it or can't relate to it, well, they just haven't experienced it yet. And if they do, they'll have a whole different take on things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I thought, you know what, I will just add that. And on top of that, Charis, your book is beautiful, and you do a wonderful, magnificent job.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
Everyone should buy this book.
Oh, that's a plug.
I call it like this.
Yeah, no, you're totally right about the experiencing or not experiencing. If you've never had any kind of esoteric experiences, I know that it sounds completely crazy. And that's one of the first things I'll say. I know this sounds completely crazy. However, if you have had them, then it's not crazy at all. And you're saying, oh, thank goodness someone's coming out of the closet about this. So it divides the population. But
yeah. Well, it's all a matter of time, and then everyone will have it all figured out.
Yeah. Hopefully.
All right. Well, I just wanted to call in and add that note.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. Beautiful show, guys. Keep it up. Bye-bye.
That was nice. I like the nice callers.
It's been nice on me so far. I don't know. Hopefully I'll not regress.
Oh, you'll give it time.
Oh.
Give it time. It'll be a nice and breaking you in. They don't want to scare you off yet.
I'm going to knock on wood all day tomorrow just because you said
it's kind of, I know we're getting short on time. Journal of Starseed, guys, you can find us linked off the UFO Undercover site. You can also catch her on Facebook. It's pretty easy to find Kairos. She's on, just type. By the way, her name doesn't spell the way it sounds. I'll give you a little heads up on that. Mm-hmm. But just go over to the UFO Undercover, copy and paste it in Facebook, and there you go. Mm-hmm. It'll bring you right there.
Find. Yeah, and if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them.
You know what I'll start doing? I'll start with Charis. I'm going to go get her link off of Facebook and put it on the page. I don't know why I don't put the Facebook links on there. Because pretty much everybody's got them now.
Yeah, sure. Handy.
Everybody on there's got them. I love them Facebook pages. They're blast over there. The other one's getting ready to get full. I'm telling y'all, ladies and gentlemen, I'm down to less than 200 left on that site. So if you're getting on there, get on there. Because it's going to be full. The other one has like a 3-month waiting list. I think about every 3 months it drops low enough to sneak a person on or two.
Yeah.
So anybody who's on that list, whoever's first gets on. We just use it for news, for sharing information between other contactees and researchers. And there is a gathering. It's a little small group. It's a contactee group. It's on Facebook. I think there's 100, 110 members. Very small. Sometimes they get over there and chat. Sometimes they don't, but it is there. And it is for contactees. That's what it's for. It's a way to communicate back and forth. So it's one of them things. Director meeting 2 weeks. Post it up. I'll send it out to everybody's email this week. I'll get it to everybody's email. What else? Kairos, anything else before we get out of here?
Not really. Thanks for the chat.
Sure.
I learned a lot.
Sure. So you're still signing books, or how long?
Yeah, I've got one signing coming up in August up in Pennsylvania. There's a holistic expo up in Tamaqua that I'll be at, and I'm scheduling book signings for all up and down the East Coast. I'm going to be posting them on my Facebook and on the website, journalofthestarseed.com. You can see the coming events and the past events, like the show will be linked on there. I'll probably make a YouTube video out of it and put that up and all that kind of business. So, yeah, I'm working my way through, and eventually I'll go out to California, too, and do a few out there. But it's going as it's going, you know.
You need to wait to go to Cali till our buddy gets in town.
Mm.
I think she said she's coming in later in the year. I know she was coming in August, but she changed her mind. And that way you can harass her. We've got to bring her into this slowly.
Yes, we do. She'll get here sooner or later.
It's well, you know, I need some people over there. That's one reason I'm on her part.
Yeah.
Actually, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a friend of ours. She goes under AS. She's been on the radio network, and she lives overseas. And I'm just trying to recruit her as a director. I got to get her to come out before I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina. You know, I got to go look, Tip. I think I need oh, no, we need a director there. A good friend of ours was director out there, but he got married. And wifey thinks anybody who believes in aliens is a nutcase. So it was either us or her. Oh, she's cuter than we are. So.
Yeah. That's
one of them things. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get out of here. Charis, you did a fantastic job tonight. You're great. I think you're going to be a great addition to the ICAR team. We also remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are still actively looking for directors. Our goal is to fill all 50 state directors in the United States by the end of August. We want that done. We're also adding 16 new international directors. I think they'll be done by August. And then we'll have a goal to pick up 4 more of them before Christmas, which will officially give us the largest directorship of any organization handling this right now. So anyway, we're working on that. You know, guys, fill out an application. Come check out the organization. Something we're going to be working on new. We're going to be setting up a specialty team for abductions. Probably 5 of the top members or whoever's involved. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. There's about 5 or 6 people I'm thinking about recruiting for this job, and they're all uniquely different. I know I will not be involved in it. Unfortunately, Joe has enough cases of his own. And I, in all fairness, guys and girls, I choose a lot of my cases now because I'm looking for specific things, and I'm working with 3 different types of contactees, all different ages and both sexes. I was going to say all the sexes, but we're going to leave it at that. Anyway, guys, if you know any directors, anybody that wants to get involved, write to us. It's a fun job. It's a thankless job. Well, I say thank you all the time, but I mean thankless in the fact that you don't get paid. But we are looking for a lot of help. And lately, everything's been up for us. Our sightings have been up. Our abduction cases coming up. Everything in the organization is on the up climb. Plus, its popularity is quite climbing quite fast now. So it's a good time to get on board and help us to stretch out our arms. We're also looking for people that are going to get involved with conferences later in the year. So think about that. Charis, again, thanks. You were fantastic.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you the next time you're in town again, or if I'm up in your neck of the woods. Guys, if you can get out to the book sign and check it out, it's worth going out and meeting her. She's very nice. You're going to find out she's quite a bit smarter than we got into tonight. I mean, she sounded really good at night. I don't take that out of context. But anyway, get out and meet her and find out for yourselves. You'll know why I recruited her as a director. Again, Charis, thank you. Any parting words?
No, just everybody keep your minds open and your hearts open, and you'll go the way you're supposed to.
Yeah. In other words, don't be sheeples. I don't want to see y'all walking around.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And people smile. See y'all next week. Good night, everybody.